Good afternoon, welcome. This is the Marion City Council meeting for Tuesday, April 3rd. Do we need to have a roll call? Is this what the agenda says?
Mr. Draper.
Here.
Ms. Etzel.
Present.
Mr. Jensen.
Present.
Mayor Abouasley.
Here.
Ms. Gedalia.
Here.
Mr. Brandt.
Here.
Mr. Sternan.
Okay, so we have this resolution on the agenda, 26760. Here he is. Lon, do you want to? Is this something you want us to vote on tonight then?
Yeah, the union has ratified the tentative agreement from their side, and the state code has a time frame for when the council needs to act on it to also ratify. We could, if we had waited until Thursday night, both parties would have had to waive that time period, so we just wanted to put it on for today. In essence, this is a 3-year agreement, and it provides for wage increases for all 3 years of the agreement. The first 2 years are wage splits, and then the third year is a single adjustment as of July 1. On the other side of it, there's some insurance changes in it. The current contract, the employees pay a fixed amount for their contribution towards health insurance. That's going to switch to a percentage basis. It'll be consistent for the first 2 years, and in the third year, the percentage will increase. And then in the third year, there are also some plan design changes. The out-of-pocket maximum and deductibles will increase as well.
And this will go through 2021? 20 or 2021? Is that the?
I'm looking it up. Yeah, June 30, 2021.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There were some other changes in it related to wellness language and some things that the fire chief wanted to see from the operational sides. Also includes a commitment from both parties to form a labor management committee to talk about issues that arise in between. Overall, it was consistent with what we see out there in the market, and our labor attorney felt confident in recommending approval.
Okay. So, do we need a motion?
Yes, please.
Somebody want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 26760, approving a labor agreement with the International Association of Firefighters for the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2021.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 26760, approving a labor agreement with the International Association of Firefighters for the period of July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021. So we've heard from Lon. Does anybody have discussion or questions or
I do.
comments? Yes.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean, is there anything other than one sentence that we could have for information to, am I missing something? Like, what's the percentage? This just seems like a pretty big decision to be thrown out there.
Yeah, the percentage is 2.85% splits in the first 2 years. That's 1.6 and then 1.25. Second year is 1.75 and 1.1, and then the third year is 2.85. The contributions towards insurance.
Well, let me just ask this. What's the harm in not doing this tonight so that we have time to digest it?
The state code has a stipulated timeline for adoption between union ratification and city council ratification. So if we don't act, both parties have to agree to waive that timeline. We could ask them if they would, but they would have to act on that tomorrow. And I'm not sure that, I don't know if just the bargaining agent can do that, or if the union has to meet as a body to agree to waive that.
What is the timeline?
I believe it's 15 days.
So, but by the time from the time it's approved, there's 15 days that it has to be approved by the city, by the council. Otherwise, what's the consequences?
If you don't if both sides don't ratify, then I would have to check and see with our attorney. It's never happened for us since I've been here, so I don't know if that automatically kicks us over into mediation or if it means that we default to a one-year agreement or what the implications of it are.
And how long has this information been known?
When it was ratified?
Yeah, like when did you have these numbers? I'm assuming not by Friday, or it would have been in our packet, or?
The agreement, the tentative agreement was on March 19th, and I believe they ratified. On the 24th.
We should have, I'm sorry, but I just feel like this is too important of a decision. I'm not even paying attention to the numbers. I might be alone up here, but I'm not going to vote on something I learned about 5 minutes ago. This is too consequential.
Yeah, Holly Corkery, our attorney, had sent over a notification that under Chapter 20, we have 10 days to get the new contract approved following ratification. And she's noting that it's actually due let me contact her and clarify it, because they may not have acted in that period of time, because she's thinking that it's actually due on April 13th.
Oh.
Okay.
That was in a correspondence to Beth.
I mean, it has not been 15 days since
No.
the 24th.
It looks like under the new Chapter 20, it was 10 days. So that's probably a change.
Anybody else want to say anything?
Well, no, I agree. I mean, it'd be nice to have the agreement. Would we be able to see the actual agreement?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it's been negotiated and recommended by our attorney, who does this stuff all the time. And, you know, it's just, when we're voting on something, it'd be nice to see the agreement.
Mayor, would you like then for a motion to table this, or what would you like to do?
Would make sense.
Yeah, I will so move to table this.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table resolution number 26760. To it until when? I guess that we don't have to set a specific time.
Until such time is brought forward.
Okay. Discussion.
Are you,
Sir.
recommendation was table until Thursday?
Further notice.
In the meantime, can we get a copy of it somehow? Other than on the computer? For guys that can't read it on there.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling resolution number 26760, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it's tabled. Well, okay. I mean, if we need to have a special meeting or something like that to meet a deadline, I mean, we can always try to work something else out like that. I mean, if we can't wait until the next set of council meetings, you know, if you find out that the deadline is before that, we can try to accommodate something like that.
Well, can't we potentially even do it on Thursday if he gets it to us?
We could on Thursday if that's enough time for
If
people.
we get it right away, we could.
I mean, they'd have at least we'd have all have the agreement and have at least 1 or 2 days to look at it. Potentially, if it helps with the deadline.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd have it on Thursday.
I've never seen it.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the regular agenda? Okay. Under finance, number 4.
Yeah, Your Honor, on Thursday morning, we will be having our sale of our 3.25, or 3.235 million in general obligation series 2018 bonds. Tiana Pooler, our financial consultant, should be here Thursday evening to report to you the results of that sale, and then there'll be a follow-up resolution approving the sale and the closing date. We did hear back from Moody's. They did confirm our AA1 rating, which is a very good rating that I know Tiana talked about last time she was here.
Okay, any questions or discussion on this? No questions? All right, moving on to number 5.
Yeah, number 5, Your Honor, there was a alcohol citation filed to the Best Western Long Branch back in, I'm not sure the date. Yeah, it was before that. Yeah, it was back in December of 2017, and we briefly talked about it before, but he would like the opportunity to come and discuss that with you, if that's acceptable. We did set Thursday as the hearing date for him to come and do that.
Okay. And what happens at this hearing? We've never experienced this, in my time here at least.
Quite honestly, my review of the code, because this is actually a violation of the Iowa code, I don't know that it's completely clear the actual formal process. I would view it as sort of similar as to when somebody appeals an infraction to one of the boards, like the construction board, something like that. They come in, they make their pitch to the council as to why they should be excused from this civil notice, this notice of the alcohol violation, and the council would make its determination whether or not they agree with the Marion police in issuing the citation. Well, not the citation, but issuing the notice of alcohol violation and assessment of penalty or not.
Okay. So
It's
the
not a
council has
criminal. I mean, it's not like a misdemeanor act or something where you're determining somebody's criminal guilt. It's whether or not the facility, the institution, violated the Iowa Code section that's set forth in the notice. He's either subject to a $500 civil penalty, or failure to that results in a 14-day suspension of their liquor license.
So they've been assessed the civil penalty.
That has already been assessed.
Yep, but the council has the ability to reverse that?
Apparently so.
Well, what do you mean apparently so?
No, I mean, that's my review of the code is, yeah.
Yes, okay.
That you are the board, you are the tribunal to which that is appealed.
Yeah, it's just good to know before Thursday.
Yeah.
What the role of the council is in hearing that, and what the purpose of it is. Okay.
And the reason for a little bit of the confusion again is we're not talking about a Marion statute. That'd be a lot easier to interpret. This is a violation of the Iowa Code, and the Iowa Code is a little vague as to what the governing body is that reviews it. So that's my review of the Iowa Code is, it's up to the city council.
So are we only to look at this circumstance, or is it fair game to ask about their history of any other violations over the past 10 years or whatever?
Well, as the tribunal, I think that's within your discretion, if you believe that to be relevant, pertinent information. I guess I would view you as sitting as essentially a panel of judges, and when I'm a lawyer appearing before the panel of judges, I don't tell them what they get to consider and what they don't. They tell me what I get to present and what I don't get to present. So if that's something that you want to consider and to delve into, I think that's within your prerogative to do so.
Well, we don't know why he's really wanting to appeal this. So I look at it from the standpoint, is he a repeat offender? Has he done it in the past? Or is this the first time in, 25 years? So I look at those, but if he's asking us to make a decision on that, then I'm gonna wanna know what the history beyond just this 1 year is gonna be.
Certainly.
Okay.
Will the council be privy to what the details were? Obviously, there was an infraction, so clearly there was somebody that was served underage or off premises, or I would think we would want and need a little information prior to being subject to a presentation and a moment's notice of a decision being cast forward.
And in that regard, I'm going to refer you over to our chief of police.
Okay.
I can give the council, if asked, a brief on what the initial violation was, the adjudication of that violation in Lynn County court system. And then I can tell you the date that we sent the notice, because you're talking about two infractions here. An infraction occurs when an employee, just use an example case, an employee serves alcohol to a minor. They are immediately issued a citation, okay, and they are then given a court date when to appear in court. There is not a civil infraction against the license of the liquor establishment until that employee is found guilty of that violation. Once that piece is adjudicated in court, the institution, the business, is then sent a civil violation of the alcohol code. Okay, does that make sense? There may be some issues of the person in this case there was a plea agreement in this case, and the civil infraction was sent to the business within 2 days of the adjudication in Lynn County Court, and then that's where it's at now. So what this person's concern coming to you would be, I assume, an appeal of the civil penalty based on the liquor violation.
Because there was a plea agreement?
Okay, so in order for there to be an infraction against the business, the person that committed the violation has to be found guilty in court. Okay, and so this person in this case was found guilty. Okay, and when we get that determination from the court, we then issue the violation against the liquor of the institution that's holding the liquor license. And I had the entire packet ready to go for last week because I thought it was on last week, but I'll make sure I bring it on Thursday.
Is there anything about this particular scenario that's different than most of the other things that?
No, and I
Okay.
think that institution has a very good reputation. I think it was a one-time incident. We have no concerns with that business whatsoever. No, it's nothing like that. The person pleaded guilty to the liquor violation. It was very clear cut. I mean, just as open and shut, you served to a minor. They pled, and so.
Thanks.
Okay. Any additional questions on that? All right. Nothing under public services. Police. We have a presentation regarding crime-free multi-housing.
I apologize, Mayor. That officer's tied up on a call,
Okay.
and I can't get him free, so I apologize. I'm in space right now. I'll have him rescheduled for 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem. We'll cross that off the list. Any other questions under that portion of the agenda? We have an item for fire. Okay.
I for one, would like to thank the chief for an email concerning the Four Oaks facility, and I think you're going to come forth with something on that. So thanks for moving forward on that.
Okay, we have a couple items under parks. Hi, Mike.
I do. And I think I mentioned this when you brought it up before, because this is really exciting and it's the first of our kind. I noticed in the Phase 1 Design Development 1.4, the public input meetings, and I didn't know what you had in mind, but I definitely wanted to just, again, encourage you to reach out to Marion Independent School District and Linn-Mar and let kids know whenever these meetings are going to be, or have a separate one for the school kids, because they're really going to be the users. So I think it'd be neat just to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, we'll do a lot of public outreach.
Mhm. Yeah, it's exciting. And then the second thing, I didn't see it in here, and maybe it's not, but I just wanted to ask if there's any thought to doing security cameras, after what happened at Lau recently. I know this isn't a pretty public area, but is it cost prohibitive?
With security cameras, I don't
Okay.
believe they're part of it. Now we're looking at a wider, project across the city associated with security
Okay.
cameras. That's where I think is some of our, that area would tie in. I would look at.
That makes sense.
Did you say we are looking at
Yeah, we're actually
security
looking
cameras?
at Lau Park, City Square Park,
Okay, so
other park
citywide
facilities actually
facilities.
associated with
Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks.
I have been mentioning this to the students at Marion High School when I go there, and the reactions are always very positive, even if they don't, see that they would use it, but they think it's a great thing to have as an additional thing for young people to do. So, yeah.
a lot of public input.
Good. Okay.
Second thing on the agenda, associated with cemetery and cemetery. First, a little background. We've been working with the state. They have oversight of state code associated with cemeteries. And they get some that we're in compliance with those code changes. So we've been working with them to make sure, one, that our codes align with. We wanted to make sure that we were doing things which we operate Oak Cemetery as. So we work with them and then look at our code, get recommendations from them on what we can do. I just, before we get into it too deep, it's not, it's not just all of us that come up here, but that said, there is a provision that will allow you to utilize up to 20% principal for things like new property. And then also, we have some things would qualify. If you were to use those funds, one that would have to be done in 5-year repayment plan. Historically, the city never dipped into the fund to operate the cemetery. Under state code, $50 or 20% for Marion, our space dollars of that 650 goes to the perpetual care fund. So what that annually, what that looks like is about 40. Our fund balance in the perpetual care. One of the requirements, if you operate a perpetual care cemetery, that we do an annual report. And we submit that on an annual basis. And we charges that's associated with that. $5. That's part of the process of the annual report. So that's just kind of a real quick what the perpetual care fund is.
Are there cemeteries that aren't perpetual care?
There are non-perpetual care cemeteries, and there are some provisions within types of cemeteries. Majority of them are probably in that perpetual care category.
I'm thinking of the Paupers Cemetery in the shadow of the landfill. Would they have the same responsibilities of perpetual care funding and what have you?
Yeah, I would assume that they do.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, we could ask the county if they're, or the dump, whoever they're called now, if they are abiding by state law. Then, thank you.
Like, so the perpetual care fund, does that generate enough income to take care of things, or? Doesn't seem like it's a lot to me.
Not to mow it. The amount that we could to maintain that minimum balance moving forward, and just what we have identified of our expenditures in the cemetery year over year, just in the cemetery budget runs about $65,000 a year,
Yeah.
65,000 in that range. So
You're not generating that kind of money from.
that's not, so
Want to invest in it.
it's somewhat of a stopgap if for some reason.
Oh, so we're not really relying on it for. Care.
Or any cemetery that's out there. But we do have to follow
You have an active group that does a terrific job of raking leaves and resetting stones, and Casina does really a lot of work there.
Speaking of the Friends of the Cemetery. And they're very well
Wonderful.
I'll bring up one comment, and I looked at the definition of a space, and it said the space can be used either for a full burial or for 2 cremations. And I know just actually a week ago I was at a funeral, and in that circumstance, the wife who passed away a number of years before was buried there, and then the husband was cremated, and they actually put them in the same space. They had to pay for the cost to open it up, and then another family member was able to use the other space. So I just looking at the definition, and I wouldn't have even brought that up if that situation had just occurred. So I don't know if there's flexibility in that to give families flexibility in the future, or if it's even possible.
It gets complicated in that scene, and some of the things that we're going to talk about is what we're kind of within that. If you do a full burial and then you come back with a cremation, it gets very challenging.
Right.
Type of vessel. Very complicated that we've run into it before over there, and you do not have. Oh, sorry about that. You do not have the space to get the cremains in.
Okay.
And so that's the conflicts that's there, and it exists. And then we've also run in to that, who goes first, cremains or full burial? So you put let's say the cremains burial would go first, and then the full burial next with vault and everything, and we run into circumstances where there's not enough space. So it gets very complicated, then we have to get the state involved and everything else. So that's why we're going to this, that
Okay.
it's one or the other, full burial
You considered
or
it.
up to 2 cremains in a space to
Okay.
answer that question.
Okay.
So with that said, we'll dive in to the revisions to the code, and it starts out in our section. It's .01, and it's just the definition. And basically, what we're doing is we're striking the section related. That's basically section of code, and we're doing that change to the chapter 523I, which calls out the state code in that section. Number 2. Basically, we're stating that a deed and a certificate of interment rights are the same thing. The state code prefers to use certificate of interment rights versus deed. We've used deeds for years, but we're going to make that change over to interment rights. We will maintain both. We will not go back on what we've already had for the existing deeds. Moving forward, once the new code changes have been approved, moving forward, then it would be interment rights versus the deed. They're one and the same, though, so we wanted to note that in the code. So number 3 basically is just a definition of what the interment rights mean. Number 4, that's just a definition of what interment rights agreement means. So then we get into records. And under records, basically, we are changing from the term lot owner to certificate of interment rights holder is what we're doing. And lot owner, basically a lot in a cemetery is usually referred to as 12 spaces. So what we have called out in our existing code as a lot owner really doesn't align with what a lot is, so that's why we would make that change. So basically the correct definition would be grave space versus lot, and again, which is typically that 12 spaces.
12 spaces.
Yes,
like an entire block.
within the lot. And then the next under sale, in .04, sale of lots, we're basically striking all of the current language in that, and we're replacing that with the sale of interment rights and new language associated with those interment rights. If we can put that up there. And then under .05, perpetual care, again, we're pretty much striking everything associated with the current code, and we're replacing that, items 1, 2, and 3, and this is language taken directly from state code. So again, aligning with state code is why we're making that. And then the next, as we get into rules and regulations at .08 of the code, we're striking what we currently have, which is immediate family, and we're replacing that with a definition of relative, and then describing what that is. That's under 1A, 1B as a definition of lot, and we get back into what a lot is, and that is typically 12 spaces, so we're calling that out. And then C is a definition of grave space, and we struck the one-person language in there, and that kind of falls back to what we just talked about previously. And then, let's see, 2, basically we're striking all the outdated rules that were in place in the code associated with plants, decorations, cleanup dates. All those have changed over the years, but they weren't changed in the code, so we're bringing them up to what our current rules are associated with those items. Then number 4, that's just identifying with the headstones, the monuments, and the markers, and that they are required to be on a permanent foundation. And basically, we call out a certain size of wash, if you will, on the side of the monument. So we're calling that out within code. And then the other part of it, those memorials, headstones, monuments, those type of things, they need to be approved by the department and constructed and set by an approved memorial dealer. It's one of those things, we don't allow that anybody can just go out and paint a name on a rock and take it over to the cemetery and set it on the space. We want some control of that and what they do. We won't just let anyone go over and dig the footings and set the foundation. We want to control that. So that's basically what we're speaking to in the code associated with that item. And then on page 4, under 7, interment limits, that's talking about that 1 full burial and 2 cremains, and don't need to go into that. And then number 9, and that just pertains to the transfer or sale of spaces, and that this you cannot make that transfer without notification of the department, so we can update our records and transfer over those interment rights. So that's just calling that out. And then number 10, basically it just specifies who can be interned in that space. So those are the changes. Overall, not too drastic, but this just gets us more in line with state code associated with the state cemetery.
How people who already have a family member buried there, how will they know that these have been changed?
I don't know that necessarily we can go back and notify every person and individual in the cemetery to do that. And realistically, the overall changes that we're doing really will not impact them because they've already had the deeded space, those type of things. So really moving forward.
But if they own like a they own a space that they want to transfer or whatever, that does, I mean, if, you know, if
Well,
there's an
those-
extra space or something they want to,
That same procedure still
Yeah.
has applied and always applied. We're just making sure that we have it within the code. It really hasn't changed that they need to notify us so we can make sure that that transfer of what was deed takes place, those type of things. So it's always happened, we're just calling that out.
are they posted on the website or these rules?
The code is not, that I'm aware, I don't believe it's out on the website right now. Not to say that it can't be, that we can make that notification and put that out there. Once, I guess I would look at it as once we can put it out there now, or we can wait until the council acts on it, and then we would put the new
Oh, yeah.
code changes
I mean,
out, I
once
guess
it's
is the
approved,
way
as I'm saying, yeah.
I would look at doing it.
Okay.
But we definitely can do that.
Okay,
Any,
was that it? Any
Yeah, that's-
questions or
that-
comments
that's it
on all
on
those? Okay, thanks for the explanation. Any questions or comments? If that's it,
that's it.
thank you, Mike.
Yep, thank you.
On to engineering, there are a couple items there.
Amanda, can you switch the?
Are there any questions on non-starred items? None? Okay. Mike? The other Mike.
All right, so we're pretty quick today. We've already kind of seen this map, but ITC is going to come through, and there's a new facility that they're proposing along 151 and 100 rather than go through the Squaw Creek Park. So they'll be eliminating some lines in there, and they're just looking to upgrade those lines. So on Thursday, we'll actually have the public hearing, and all they're asking for is 25 feet of overhang easement. So we would still be able to do stuff that is below it. There's obviously some height requirements on that. There's setbacks and stuff that we have to be away from the frontage anyways. They are proposing to pay us for this easement. They're using a land value of $8,748 per acre, and there's 0.29 acres. And as we typically do, we pay 50% of the value because it's a easement. We're not actually giving up the land, it's just an easement. So they're proposing to pay us $1,268.46.
Okay. Questions?
In your packet, you had the whole agreement.
Yeah.
So, Mike, why wouldn't we put these underground? What's the benefit for them being up?
So some lines you can't bury,
And these are
just
those.
because there's such a big facility. So these are ITC. So how the hierarchy works is you have SIPCO that kind of regulates, and they do have a line that's along Squaw Creek Park. Then it goes ITC, Alliant, and then to your house. And so some of those facilities are harder to underground because of the insulation and grounding effect.
Thanks.
Will this affect any future plans for that location? What's planned underneath that?
No, that's actually what that was. That was the old sewage lagoon for the east side of Marion at one time. It no longer is because we built a trunk sewer down to the wastewater treatment plant. Right now, it's basically wetland. The only improvements that we really have planned are there are trails.
Right, is that where the trail?
It shouldn't interfere with the trail.
Okay.
And what that's it, with the transmission lines, they're just looking for an overhang easement. They're
Right.
required to have those off the DOT right away. So it's not going to impact any improvements through there.
Thank you.
And this is in conjunction with a bigger project, is that right?
Yeah,
They're
so the
putting in like a
previous-
substation
Yeah, so
somewhere?
this big project that they're doing here, where they're installing lines along 151, along 100, and that's where Tom talked about the substation that right now is being proposed on Jornson's property. That's 5 acres. They might find a different location for it, but they would still need this easement that they're requesting from us. That transfer station could go to a different location, though.
Okay, with the substation, will there be screening requirements?
That's something
those
we'll
kinds of
have to
things?
discuss with them, yeah.
Things, yeah, okay. Good.
Right now, they're proposing to put it on property that technically we don't have purview over because it's Lynn County.
Oh.
I mean, we have a 2-mile jurisdiction, but that's one issue if we don't have that property annexed into the city of Marion.
That'll be coming in the future.
Yeah, when we see where they're actually, we suggested some other locations for them, and so they may change locations. But yeah, when we actually see that, we'll get a chance to review it. But all we're approving tonight, or Thursday, is the
This is just the
easement.
overhang easement?
Yep.
Okay. Other questions?
I did about something
Yes.
else when we're done with this one. Sorry, it's
Oh.
a non-bolded one, but
Yeah, that's fine. It's perfectly.
did anybody
Yep.
want to go on these?
Should we finish the other
Yeah.
bullet one and then we can
Yeah,
come
yeah.
back to that? Okay. Other questions on ITC? All right, there are none, so we'll move on. Oh, that's it?
That's it.
That's all I have.
Both of
Yeah.
them were the same thing. Okay, so please go ahead.
So I just wanted to clarify on number 5, will that, I know we're just making a motion to receive and file on Thursday. Will that come back for a full,
Yeah, so
you'll
what
let
we'll-
us know whatever happens?
What we do is we actually present a staff report. It'll come back as a TAC report that the TAC committee will put together.
Okay,
It'll be presented to you, and then we will ask for you to act on it.
okay. And about how long?
Depends on how busy we are. Right now, we're being pulled in a million directions, but, generally, we try and do it the next council meeting. There's some times where I have the report at the same time as we're receiving and filing it.
Did we get that?
Right now, because we're letting projects and getting the construction season started, it just depends.
So within
We-
the next month,
Yeah.
2 months, we'll see it. Okay, just caught my eye, so, okay.
Did we get that letter that we're receiving and filing?
It was all emailed to you guys several times. She wrote it to you guys to begin with. That's why it's being received and filed.
Thanks, that was it.
Okay?
I can resend it to you if you want.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mike. Under planning, there's one starred item. That's very unusual.
Somebody even
Who's
here?
here for planning?
He just walked out.
Tom's here, but he's not in the room, so if you wanted to move to administration, we could do
Want
that.
to move to
and then
administration? Okay.
give him a few minutes to come back in.
He's already planned, then,
For the first one, I'm going to turn over the gavel to Mayor Pro Tem.
That one will actually be pretty simple. We're not going to act on that on Thursday. We're going to pull it from the agenda. We had hoped to have the contract ready. DOT just provided some feedback on it, so we need to run that through the Airport Advisory Committee and get their recommendation before council acts on it.
So it's just coming off?
Yeah, we
Okay.
will not be on there for Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Number 2?
Number 2, I think legal was going to present on that one.
So, numbers 2 and 4, would you rather that I stand at the podium, or are you okay with me here at the table?
I think you're fine there.
Okay.
Unless, does anybody care that he's not at the podium?
No, but on Thursday, if we're explaining this, for the benefit of, since it's a public meeting, I'd personally prefer that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So 2 and 4 actually really tie together because these are both changes that we're making to Chapter 120 of the Marion Code. That's been the subject of a number of talking points here at different council sessions. Allow me to preface it by saying legal is still working on a comprehensive change of 120. These 2 items are not that comprehensive change. These are specifically relating to a couple of specific items. Item H2 specifically refers to an amendment to Code Chapter 120.05, subparagraph 11. This would allow minors in bars that apply for special events permits. The bar can apply for a one-time permit or for an ongoing permit, which would expire after 90 days. And it's hoped that if they were to apply for this 90-day permit, that by the time that would expire, we would actually have 120 amended in its entirety to cover that. But at least as it would be in its current form, that would be a 90-day ongoing permit. Either way, these would allow for both graduation parties and lunch permits It would also mean that the bar would not have to come in and reapply for ongoing events if they had the ongoing permit. The application form will include all of the information, including the dates and times requested for the special endorsement, and it will include language that the permit needs to be displayed similar to their regular permit. A violation of this endorsement would be the same as any other permit violation. Really, the only change to the current code is, or the substantive one, is that it takes away the requirement of the chief of police to approve the permit. That's not to say that his input isn't both welcome and in fact critical. It's just as the current code section is written, it actually requires the chief's approval for it. So it now has the chief review it or the police department review it, but it doesn't require that approval. It also eliminates the need for a resolution of the council to approve it, as opposed to merely just having the council approve it the way they approve any other permit. And the application will also just have a space for the mayor's signature. That's a substantive change with regard to item H2. Are there any questions on H2 before I move on to H4?
I had a question about this. So would this, it says special permit endorsement, so graduation parties, and I'm in favor of that stuff, but would this change allow a scenario of a 15-year-old to walk into a bar unattended at 9 p.m. for no reason?
I mean, if we're, first of all, if we're talking about specifically about bars that, that's more than 50% alcohol sales, they're still subject to any other provisions of the Marion Code. So in this particular case, are you saying that somebody with this permit holder that has an ongoing permit that allows minors to enter in at other, I mean, if it's permitted in the permit that they're granted, then it's permitted.
But we say special permit endorsement, meaning for special occasions, but it's really just a blanket for 90 days then?
No.
Okay.
There's two different ones. There's a one-time permit, such as if a bar wants to allow just a graduation event, there, one specific thing, it is only applicable to that, and the application would have specific dates and times for it. If it is an ongoing permit, that's a different matter. And again, these are, depending on what they're applying for, they're subject to scrutiny and input by the police department and approval by the council. So if that's a concern that the council has, then
there's another layer. It's not just this. Okay, that's what I wanted to ensure.
I thought there was going to be like a time limit, that it wasn't past, that this would be allowed, not past a certain time. Like I believe, is it Cedar Rapids where it's 7 o'clock or something like that?
Yeah, and I believe that's the plan when we write 120 with the input, is that we would mirror Cedar Rapids' code, and I believe that is 7 p.m. for minors.
So this is different.
We would get there. No, this is in the rewrite of the entire alcohol ordinance.
Okay.
That would be included, and it would specify a time. What we're talking about now is just special permits to allow specific events that are designated by date and time, even if they're ongoing. I believe the form has a designated place where we can show the date, the time, that the special event's going to be occurring. So in the councilwoman's example of a 15-year-old walking in to a bar at 9 p.m., I'm not going to sign any or recommend approval to council any permit that would allow minors in a bar after 7 p.m. We can get, the business we need to done with minors in bars before 7 p.m., in my opinion, until we get
that would be written into the permit or something?
We can write that into the permit. And then if somebody wanted to make a request to council to have it, say till midnight with all the kids in there, I would recommend to the council that it be denied, and then it'd be up to you to make a decision based on the request. My personal perspective, I'm comfortable with this moving forward over the next 90 days till we get the alcohol ordinance redrafted. It's something that I can police. It's something that I can manage. I don't think there's a laundry list of people standing outside the door waiting to do this. There's very specific businesses. They're hoping to have some events in Marion that I think we can accommodate. So that's where I fall.
So did I just understand that there's we expect an overhaul of this in 90 days?
That's my understanding from legal, yes.
Okay.
So this is just temporary for now.
Yes.
Correct. And that's why we wanted to sunset it in 90 days. And if, if we're not done by then, we could renew it if we had to for another 90 days. But I think it's the general consensus of staff, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I believe we want to get this done. We just want to do it right for council.
But this doesn't say that it sunsets in 90 days.
I think on the form it does.
On the form they fill out?
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
on the application.
Yeah, so not on this.
Not-
When
not
it
in the
says
actual ordinance, but in-
authorized by special permit endorsement, the 90 days or the one time is all in the special permit. That wording
Yes, sir.
is not here.
But it's in
on
the permit itself. That
Right.
if
That's what is
sir.
confusing some of us, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
And
you're
the-
talking about a couple different options,
Sure.
but this doesn't refer to that.
And you still
Okay.
scrutinize all of these that come through?
Absolutely,
There's a
I will.
layer,
You
so
bet.
I'm good.
I had a question about the special event time. Is it during business hours, or is it on a day they're closed, or is it,
It could be either or.
it could be either or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question beyond that. One of the bars that kind of brought this whole thing forward is a bar that's currently doing 38% food business. And not having allow families in to watch, say, an Iowa football game, which not a lot of people have done lately, but they're never going to get to 50%. And 50% is a great savings to them if they can reach that plateau. So with that in mind, could they send a permit in for every Cub home game? That the family would be allowed to stay?
Yeah, or they could, the name of event could be, lunch permit, the dates that they're open, the times that service occurs, to allow individuals, or if they have different dates of, like you said, Cubs home games, dates of event. They could list them out. It would be,
People like to
it would
go
be
where
an
there's
ongoing
big
permit,
televisions,
and they would be able to schedule out through that 90-day period those Cubs home games.
Okay.
That's
Thank
my
you.
understanding. Would staff agree there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I guess to address an issue that was raised about the 90-day sunset on this and this just being a temporary thing versus a complete overhaul, one of the reasons that we're doing it in this fashion was that we were given essentially the mandate, given the time-sensitive nature of these upcoming graduation parties, as well as when we get into item H4 about St. Joseph's Fun Days, in order to be able to get these changes through in time still to accommodate these businesses that are doing this. The time-sensitive nature also would raise the issue of whether the council would be able to get through all three hearings on these, all three considerations on these ordinances in time. And so just, to advise the council, the procedure for doing that, if you were inclined to do so, would be following the initial hearing. There could be a motion to suspend the rules and proceed directly to the second and third hearings that would require 70% approval of the entire council, not just the council members that are present, but of the entire council, and a roll call vote. So just, I understand that there's, again, the time-sensitive nature of all of these things. There is a mechanism by which we can address it and address it quickly if the council were so inclined.
I would just put it out there for my fellow council people that I'm usually not in favor of that kind of fast tracking, but I would waive a third one. So as long as we could advertise that we were only going to do it twice, or however we would word that, I wouldn't want to just do it all and turn it in a meeting and not give people the opportunity to come and talk about it. But I personally would be in favor of waiving the third one at the second time we did a public hearing.
That's what I was going to say too.
If there were no
Right.
objections and
Yes.
things like that, so, yeah.
That's still in April. I mean, the end of April, that'll be our second reading.
Thanks for pointing out that option too.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So moving on then, just to H4, this is the amendment to Marion Code Chapter 120.06, Subchapter 2.
Real quick, can I say we did not receive this amendment, the .6, yeah, .6062 amendment. We did not receive that, so we've not seen it.
I believe that Kara just finished the amendments to this very quickly before we had this meeting here just now. So, if I'm not mistaken, there was a version that was circulated, and then there was just a further revision because we began the meeting at 4 o'clock, and I received these at about 3:15, 3:20. So I think that there was a very recent change to that. So that would be my understanding of that. Again, I didn't draft these, but just the time frame and the conversation that I had with Ms. Bullerman, that's my understanding.
So it's done now? It's completed, or?
I believe so. I believe these are the ones that will be submitted for consideration for the initial consideration on Thursday.
Okay. So you can go through it with us now and then send a copy, or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so
Okay.
the change to 120.06 sub 2, essentially all we're looking to do right now, and again, this is not the complete overhaul of 120. This is just essentially the stopgap solution. It gives an exception to the zoning ordinances that would restrict the sales of alcohol. This would grant an exception to nonprofit organizations that have special event permits. It also gives them an exception, excuse me, to that 200-foot rule. If the council will recall back a couple of council meetings prior, I spoke about the sort of 200-foot zone that schools and religious institutions have that extends beyond their property. This would accept that 200 rule, both as it applies to religious institutions and schools. And that's essentially the change here, that it would allow, in this case, it would allow St. Joseph's Fund to hold fun days and receive its license, but it would really apply to any nonprofit organization that would have the ability to make that application.
So is it again a permit that they're going to have to
Yes.
fill out, go through the chief, and then we approve?
Yes.
Okay.
Questions? Okay, I guess I'd just I'd like to see how it's worded, so.
That's certainly understandable.
All right, other questions on that one? Comments? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Ryan. Number 6?
Yeah, I don't know much about this one. This was a request that came in from Todd Steigerwald at the Water Department to ask the city to pass a resolution of support. This is a mayor that has a keen interest in water conservation, and every year they ask cities across the country to pass a resolution of support. And that's all I know about it.
Okay.
There's Todd.
And the water department is backing that, or I assume?
Yeah.
Will he be here Thursday to talk about it?
I'll check.
Okay, thanks.
That would be good, yeah.
I'd rephrase that question. He will be here Thursday.
Okay,
And then number 7, I don't know if Jill is here. She may want to fill the council in on that. But with the unveiling of the Future 4 ideas for the city of Marion, we now have the information that we need to resubmit to be designated as an Iowa Great Place again. I think Jill can talk about the implications of that with council's blessing.
Sure. The application actually requires a resolution of support from the city council to submit the application. So basically, we would be submitting under the city's ID number, and the chamber is writing the application on the city's behalf. I'm happy to come back and show you more of the application on the 19th. We just started writing it, so that the deadline is May 1st. It's pretty lengthy application. Probably the most complicated part of it is putting a vision plan together, and since we're a community that is redesignating, they want us to show kind of our achievements since our first designation, so with Imagine 8 and how those projects have come to fruition, and then show what our plans for the future are. But it is, like I said, a requirement to get city council support, a resolution of support for the application. Then that's kind of our way of getting into the pool. And then on an annual basis, we'll have the opportunity to apply for actual funding out of that. So with our Imagine 8 projects, we took about $485,000 out of the Iowa Great Places program, and we would hope to do at least that well or better this time. So
And the funds are used specifically for the Imagine Next projects?
Yep.
They can't be used for other community projects.
No.
You apply specifically for like the.
Right. That's the whole point of this application, is that you have to make sure that you detail everything out in a way so that it anything that's in your designation application is eligible for funding. Anything that comes after that is not.
And is the pool the same as people who have never earned the designation, or are we in a separate pool for cities who have already gotten the distinction once?
Good question, Renee. I think we're in the same pool. The redesignation timeframe is 5 years, and I believe that if like initial Great Places communities are only a 3-year designation. So we'll have a longer time frame that we can apply for projects, but we are only allowed to apply for three total.
Do they make a visit like they did previously?
Yep, that will be in June.
Okay.
So do you present all of the ideas, or do you have to narrow it down?
We will detail out all of the ideas in the application, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll, in subsequent years, apply for a grant for those. Because we have 4 ideas, and you can only get funded for 3 projects. But, you know, it's the little things initiative, that's no infrastructure or anything.
Your big 3 then is what you're going to apply for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any questions for Jill? Well, thank you to the Chamber for leading that whole process of Imagine Next, and I think it was greatly successful, and it's been very well received and created a lot of excitement in the community, and then you being in the forefront of getting this designation again. You guys do such great things for the community, and I just want to recognize that. So
thank you. Happy to do it.
Okay. Back to Tom on the one item on planning, and Mayor Protem will lead that discussion.
For a moment. The one item that is starred, I think I'll just briefly talk about it, but I may expound a little bit on it at the next meeting. As you noticed in the agenda, all these are setting dates for the public hearing. I'll talk about these more in depth at the Tuesday session before the meeting, unless you guys have questions on them now. But I like to get the report to you so you can review it at the next meeting. Then we can talk more in detail on it and present it in more of a formal fashion. The area that I would like to just briefly touch on is this area out on Echo Hill west of Alburnett Road. And it's highlighted in red. You can kind of see it generally here. Proposed rezoning from A1 to R2. This area is within our comp plan. It's designated for single-family residential, so it's not anything really about the proposal because, I mean, most of the community is R2. This is residential. It's just more about the fact that this area is under a lot of pressure right now. We've got water service pressure issues just north of here. Sanitary sewer to this site has some issues that we need to work through. The west line of this area is the line between the city of Cedar Rapids and the city of Marion for annexation boundaries. We're just getting way out on the edge of the community. There's a lot of questions on what we're going to do with Echo Hill Road. Is it an urban cross section? Is it a rural cross section? If you notice out there on Echo Hill, on Alburnett, what we've done is we've extended the shoulders a little bit for bike trail. And then we've left the rural cross sections, which works well because there's a lot of stormwater that runs down through there. But there's a lot of a lot more questions that we're going to need to have answers to on this project. So while the rezoning isn't as big of a deal, I think when we start talking about the plat, I just want the council to be aware that there are some issues, and you know they're probably surmountable, but we're getting to the point where we really need to have a conversation about how far we can grow. This is out on the edge from a fire serviceability perspective. You know, our comp plan says we can go much further, but I think we may need to take a look at that and say, yeah, we can, but can we legitimately serve it the way we should serve it? And what do we need to do to get the appropriate infrastructure out there? So I'm just kind of setting the stage for the council to understand that it's not just this area. I think I did present some time ago on the east side of town where we're also, you know, there's a lot of growth on the periphery of the community right now. The easy pieces for development, every developer will tell you they're gone. So we're out on the edge. The sanitary sewer to serve this area comes up through ground that's in the county. To serve this area, they got to extend it from a different location out of a different line, which we can talk about.
So, Tom, just real quick, so you're giving us this heads up. Does this mean that you would maybe not recommend this because?
No, I would. I have no problem with the zoning. It's just as we get to the subdivision, we're going to have to take a real good look at the subdivision and how it's served, and conversations about street cross sections, and you know, there's going to be issues on, you know, fire service, water pressure, just different things like that. So,
does Cedar Rapids have any water or sewer? And
no.
There's
Matter of fact, they're coming to us in this area for sewer. Yeah, they have. Yeah, that's still about. Yeah.
Okay, tell me the answer.
Cedar Rapids does have a water line that goes up C Avenue to go out to serve Tuma, so they do have a main over there, but it doesn't extend into this area.
About half mile, halfway down Echo Hill.
What street is the red line on the west side?
That is not a street. That's just a section line.
That's just a field.
Yep, it's a section line.
Not a street.
So when we worked with Cedar Rapids, and we have an annexation boundary that we both agreed to not.
That's that line.
That's that line, and it's right on the section line. So,
Okay, got it.
no, and the area north of this, there's 80 acres that's been platted, and if you drive out there and drive north of Echo Hill, you'll see Kent Bakken, who Integrity Homes, they're developing that. But the west edge, this area here, they've got water pressure issues, and they probably will not get that area final platted. So, so we'll just bring up some of the concerns that we have out there as we move forward with the preliminary plat, just so the council's aware. Just trying to give you a little heads up on the growth issue, on the issue of growth and expanding and serviceability. If I can take 2 seconds and talk about one other item on the agenda, just because it was on the Planning Commission. I was at the Planning Commission last week, and this is related to, I don't have my, it's the Morris Wood M&W Ventures LLC item, is it 5? 5, okay. I just wanted to bring this up, that we had a number of residents from the Brookside neighborhood at the meeting. I would say probably 20 folks at the meeting. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the request, and what they're proposing in their development is to take this area that's highlighted in red, which is currently designated for single family, and move it to duplexes.
Is that Cornhinge on the right?
Yep, this is,
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, this
That's
is
okay, just
Cornhinge, Tower Terrace, Loop Or going up, and this is Brookside Drive.
Mm-hmm.
So a number of folks had concerns about this. I did meet with one of the residents out there, Roger Flink, after the meeting the next day, and he thought that the rezoning was going all the way to the back of the properties on Brookside. I don't know if the council has received any questions regarding that, but there is a row of housing that will be single-family homes that's not a part of the rezoning, that is a part, that will remain single-family homes. So this red area here, and I know this is kind of confusing, but here's Cornhinge again, it goes up, This is the red area that the rezoning touches. So there's duplexes along this roadway. They're proposing to back them up. There's another road that comes here, and then of course when Indian Creek goes away, there'll be a single family that backs up to those properties. I just know there was some confusion at the meeting, and I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of.
Those are big lots, Tom. You might mention the dwelling lots. They made them larger.
They did make them
'Cause I had
larger
some-
to
I had
about
some
this
calls on
point.
that.
They
Yeah.
made them larger over to here. At the commission level, there was, I would guess, some negotiations with the crowd, the neighborhood, and the developer. It was a very lively meeting. And they removed, these two lots were in the original request. Those have been removed. And I think when they did that, they lost a lot, and then they spread the width of that one lot across, I believe them over to about this vicinity. So anyway, I guess my point to bringing this up is we've got 2 weeks. We're setting the date for the hearing. I think there was some confusion, and if you've received phone calls, you can use your packet if you'd like. We'll have it on the webpage. I just want to make sure that everybody's clear about what's being proposed and what is not.
Tom, do you have one that was originally platted and it came before council to shut that road down? Do you have that in your binder there by chance, what the original proposal was?
I believe it was this drawing with the area that's red showing duplexes in single-family residential homes. So.
And what is the developer's reasoning for switching those to condominiums? Well, I wished I would have been at that meeting.
I think I don't really want to speak directly for him, but I think it's market. I think he's got a lot of sales in those, and that's. There's an interesting conversation going on right now, which is, I'll just bring this up in general terms because we're seeing it from the guys sitting in the office, hearing the phone calls from residents, and also pressure from the development group on, and not just this group, but all. If you notice on the agenda, there's another conversation on the duplex conversation.
Yeah.
There's a position going on that, well, let me back up. Traditionally, there was always a discussion about multifamily and single family. We don't want them. We don't want that in our backyard because we're single family, and that was always kind of a separation issue. There's even buffering requirements for that kind of situation. Well, what's going on now because of the condo situation, the conversation has switched a little bit because condos are maintained by one owner, so they're always mowed. There's an association. There's been an interesting push from single-family neighborhoods to want to back up to something like that, and the developers are using that then to say, hey, they want this. So the staff's sitting here saying, okay, whoa, wait a minute. We got a mix of a mixed neighborhood, and if we keep chipping away at what was single family to multifamily, all of a sudden it's all multifamily, and we want to mix. In this situation, I'm not saying that this is a horrible situation or it's bad. I mean, we looked at it. Staff recommended the Planning Commission to approve it. We did say we would not support going up. The other one, the Robson one that's also on the agenda, we supported it, but we told them we're not supporting it anymore. We're done with, this is the last time we want to see you come back in and change your plan. We get in a situation as staff, we get a plat that's presented to us in a neighborhood plan. It goes out to a neighborhood, we make a recommendation, and then when that changes, staff's in the position of having to evaluate it, and we've got pressure from both sides. And I think the difficulty in that is, so what does one row of housing do in a larger scheme of things? Well, it may or may not have a lot to do with it, but there's a lot of pressure on that. So one of staff's positions moving forward is we have to have a really good reason to change your overall plan moving forward. There should be a very compelling reason why the original plan that you bring forward to us is being changed, because it's difficult for staff to sit here and say, yes, this is good, or no, this is bad. So we've made that indication to both developers. We supported the two projects as they move forward. But we're not going to be putting ourselves out there like that in the future unless there's some real compelling reason that we move forward with the change to a plan that they've submitted to us for development. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to bring both of these up. I know that they weren't the ones in bold, but I would like us to have a discussion on the housing stock needs of Marion in general, and if we can assign a percentage of what, are we saturated on single-family homes? Do we need more apartments? Because this spot approval, there are just too many diversions from our master plan, which is our vision. And so I completely agree with you, to tell the developers, this is it. But I feel like we need more teeth than just even that. Like we need to have a plan that we can stick to so that we don't have particular pockets of Marion overwhelmed by any one particular kind of housing. And then all of this little flipping, it all adds up in terms of, again, I'm going to talk about the schools, but, burdening the schools and infrastructure and just all of that. We need to just have one plan that is easy for you guys to guide the developers and for them to know, as opposed to all of these little spot switching, because it's been going on. So.
And this, it takes time.
Yeah.
I can tell you that the Brookside folks will probably tell you that this has taken a lot of their time. And
From a developer standpoint, when you take 12, 13, 14 lots, flip it into now condos, increase your cost in retail price per square footage, it becomes more profitable for the developer. We're seeing that, and it'd be very easy for me to support a moratorium on condos right now. I appreciate the fact of the study of understanding where we currently are, but as far as from the marketing standpoint, it would be nice, because I'm not in favor of those homes that were supposed to be there looking at other single-family homes across the street. Now we're going to be looking at condos. It changes the whole reasoning and why decisions were made. And again, now we're coming in the 11th hour and wanting to make a plan change to that territory out there. It's happened before. It's going to continue to keep happening. There's a repetition that's going through the process on this, and it bothers me.
I kind of feel the same way, except it's backyards when you get over on the other street. It isn't a front yard that's being affected at all. And they're all good-sized backyards. So
when you take an influx of acre-plus lots and you have those now looking across the street to side-by-side condos, that wasn't the original plan.
No, I think they're like 90-foot lots, the way I read that thing, Tom.
Yeah,
they're very deep, though.
Yeah,
because that was the reason for taking. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was the reason for changing Indian Creek Road.
Yep. Yeah,
Well, so one other thing I would add, I didn't circle this out, but I noticed when I was reading through this, we're approving a payment toward the plan, the neighborhood at Indian Creek, so we have all these studies done. I really would love us to, as a council, and maybe planning and zoning, because there are a lot of new people there, have one of our Saturday strategic plan. Everybody is on, hearing the same message about vision for the city, housing stock, what goes where, design standards, if you will. I think we need to have that discussion and nail that down too, because those things are a big part of Marion's 5 or 6 strategic goals. And there are a lot of new people in different roles, myself being one of them. So I would appreciate I know it's a Saturday, but, just really dedicating some time to understanding the direction of the city, because it will help inform our votes. And again, planning and zoning maybe could come. It would help inform their votes, and then we're all on the same page with the growth of the city, and we're ahead of it. So that's just a request.
Renee and I've talked a lot about that. I think it's not just a good idea, it's almost necessary.
Yeah.
I think we need to do that.
I think one of the surprising comments I've talked to people about is you still are hearing comments out there that there is still a big demand if there's not enough condos in Marion. And I live in Northeast Marion, and I am absolutely shocked by how many condos continue to be built. And there's a lot of different sizes and shapes. Duplexes is probably one of your better looks compared to where they try to put 4 into one building. So I know there's a lot of different ways they try to pack them in there, but I think you need to have, if we ever have a meeting like that, I mean, we got to bring some people in from the market side.
From a planning perspective, I mean, it's always good to have a mix of housing in any neighborhood. That way you can live in the neighborhood, you can move from a single-family 4-bedroom, kids, empty nesters can move into and they can stay in the same neighborhood because everybody knows how you want to age in places and have a walkable neighborhood. I mean, that's kind of the new conversation in the planning world. So, I mean, it is good to have a mix of the housing types. So, and I don't know that our current housing study really addresses, because we're building fast.
Yeah.
So that is something that we probably need to have updated a little more often than most communities. The only other thing I would say, and it may be in the staff report, I don't know it right off the top of my head, the density of the duplexes in this particular area they're almost equal to single family. Some of those duplex, some of those have 3-stall garages on a duplex. So I mean, these are pretty substantial building pads.
They're nice buildings.
I mean,
Are those all public streets out there?
I agree.
Those are public streets, correct? Yep.
And do we have any other developments now that are private streets that are under
we
construction?
haven't had many private streets. There was a time frame in Marion where there were a lot of private streets, and then there was a policy change where we went to requiring that private streets are built to public standards, because a lot of them were being built substandard, and then after an association owns them and they fall apart, there's a push for us to take them back over. So, and that was a conversation that occurred probably 6-8 years ago. Yeah. I don't think we've had a private street on a condo for quite some time. I could be wrong, but it's been a while. We would definitely bring it to the attention because we're the first ones that hear about it. So, yep.
I'll just say that there's no way that they would want to switch over to condos from single family if the condos weren't in demand. And it's a huge demand for those for ranch condos right now. I've got clients where we can't find one.
But you can't find homes in general right now.
You can't find homes in general too, but
Well, we don't want to.
there's a demand. But you can't. I don't think you can put a limit and say we have this many condos, this many single family, because the market fluctuates so much that we can't really put a number on or a percentage on what you build or what you're allowed to build.
But even within proximity, because I agree with Tom, being on planning and zoning, there are certain ways that you map out, commercial, and the next to commercial is higher density, and you kind of roll it back. And I think you have a percentage of stuff like that.
In a development, sure.
Yeah. And
not
then,
overall city.
But I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that. I think that you could have some kind of formula, not rigid, but there's got to be some guidelines. Again, we're down to spot approvals, and that to me is the opposite of where I think that we should be, just based on, if that's the trend right now and that's what people are looking for. That helps the developer sell it, but we're in the community where these things are going to be, and if they're not turning or maintained well in 20 or 30 years, do we build too many of a certain thing? I don't know.
Not to interrupt, but as an example, we're in need of more multifamily, true multifamily, and so we don't have a lot of multifamily developers. When I say multifamily, I'm going to say over 4 units. As a matter of fact, I think the ones out on 13 and the recent ones by Chad Pelly, those are the only ones that we've really received. I said outside of, I think the one on 10th Street was a 12-plex. So the first 12-plex we'd received for a great deal of years, actually, in multifamily. So there's a really big need for that. Not having developers that build it, and the need that we're getting the rezoning requests start including it. So at some point we got to say, if we need this, we got to start using our land use plan and our zoning authority to say, time out, we want some of that, and the ideal location for it is here. We're dealing with a lot of folks that built the community that build a product. They don't have a multifaceted approach to development. The single family developers, the multifamily developers, and the condo developers. So we got to be able to use our land use planning to get the housing market that we want in the neighborhoods we desire. So that's that's a shift, and that's maybe painful for folks.
Right, but that's the city driving it and not the developers driving it.
Yep, that's true. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Good conversation. Thank you.
I think it's back to you.
Okay. Oh, I think if there's nothing else to discuss, we'll move to the last item on the agenda. Someone make the motion?
I'll make a motion. Your Honor, I make a motion to adjourn to closed session regarding personal matters. City manager performance evaluation is permitted under Section 21.51I of the Code of Iowa.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn to closed session regarding personnel matters. City manager performance evaluation is permitted under Section 21.51I of the Code of Iowa. No discussion? No discussion. We need the opinion of the attorney.
Yes, Your Honor. I have reviewed this matter, and actually it is a continuation of a prior closed session. It does remain appropriate subject matter to adjourn for a closed session to review under Iowa Code Section 21.5, subparagraph 1, subparagraph I.
Okay. This is a roll call vote. Is that correct?
Do you need to?
Oh,
No, I had provided written consent for entering into a closed session prior to the original session, and that would continue throughout the process.
okay.
Mr. Draper?
Yes.
Ms. Etzel?
Yes?
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Mayor Avalosely?
Yes.
Ms. Gedalia?
Yes.
Mr. Brandt?
Yes.
Mr. Sternan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're adjourned to closed session.